Good morning, huddlers. Today's not a day like any other day. This is not your regular daily huddle, for I'm introducing someone who's made a profound impact in the world and a profound impact in my life. His name is David Cunningham. Many of you here know him, but many of you listening and watching on YouTube may not know him. So I'm going to introduce him to you formally. David Cunningham is a masterful transformational coach, teacher, and speaker with over 35 years of experience, guiding people into lives rooted in love, grace, and authenticity. His leadership has touched hundreds of thousands around the world, awakening hearts, freeing minds, and inspiring bold, purpose-driven lives. He's written a book, and aptly entitled, Your Love Does Matter. In that book, David shares his own remarkable journey of healing and self-discovery, and he's here to share with us. Many of you know him, so I won't belabor the formal introduction. I'll simply say, David, you are the love of my life.
How beautiful.
I
Right back at
remember
you.
being in sessions and many sessions, and the times you were leading, coaching, grooming, and expanding us were the times I most cherish. You know, you'd walk into the room, or I'd walk in the room and you were in front of the room, and I'd go, like that. So welcome to the Daily Huddle. Thank you for being here. Thank you for writing Your Love Does Matter. Good morning, David, and welcome.
Good morning. So wonderful to be connected in this new way.
Yeah, and so the whole world has been sitting on the edge of their seats, waiting for this conversation. The world that's here for sure. Tell us a little bit about your journey, the journey that leads you to here, and especially the journey that leads you to writing Your Love Does Matter. Tell us a little bit about the origin of that.
Beautiful. Well, I've had really the most blessed life and the most blessed career. Talk about my career first. I started out way back in 1970 as a special ed teacher and worked with autistic kids way back then. And that was a true joy. When I transitioned from that, I went to work in in advocacy. So I was a director of what was called the Connecticut Justice for Children Collaboration, and then went on to be a director of what was called the National Committee for Prevention of Child Abuse. And then, as you know, I went to lead probably the world's most powerful transformational program, the Landmark Forum, for 35 years, and got to work with, as you said, hundreds of thousands of people around the world in transforming their lives and leading the most powerful, possibility-filled lives that you can imagine people living. So in all of that, I just had the opportunity to be with people and discovered something really, I think the profound thing for me was to discover that whenever people got free, they loved. When people weren't free, when they were caught in some resentment, when they were caught in some judgment, where they were caught in some regret, their love was withheld. But every time people got free from their opinions, their judgments, their resentments, their regrets, this expression of love happened that was beautiful, authentic, powerful, and profound. So I got committed that, as I completed, quote unquote, retired when I turned 70.
The kind of retirement where you never retire, right?
Exactly. I got committed that that's what my life would be about, is that expression of love. And, now I would say the purpose of my life is that love prevails as the preeminent way of being on the planet. And so everything I'm doing is for that love prevails as the preeminent way of being on the planet, and that people are free. And when they're free, they love.
Yeah, so love prevails as the preeminent way of being on the planet. And
Mhm,
people are free, people naturally love. And
mhm.
that sparks this question for me, David. Uh, how would you define the kind of love that you now intend prevails in the world? What?
Yeah, well, I think it's important that people really separate out the experience of love from love as a way of being.
Mm,
So, mostly we worry, do I have the experience of love? Do I feel love? And that's great, except there's something else that people haven't really discovered, which is that love is a way of being. Like I'm being loving. There's ways we be in life, so we can be generous, we can be stingy. We can be tender, we can be cold. We can be forgiving, we can be resenting. And love or loving is a way of being.
mm,
So the great thing about love as a way of being is as an experience, you and I don't have a say about our experience of life. We could be frustrated or tired or happy, or we could be angry or irritated or thrilled or inspired. Those are experiences of life that we actually don't have a say about. They just happen to us.
mm,
But the way we be as human beings is what we have a total say about. So it's important for people to discover that love as a way of being, and that I have a say about whether I'm loving or whether I'm cranky, whether I'm loving or whether I'm resentful, whether I'm loving or whether I'm argumentative. That's what we have a say about.
mm,
And the final point would be is that for us to discover as human beings, in our happiest moments of life, just think about the happiest moments of your life. I assert that in the happiest moments of people's lives, they'll see that they are being loving. That's what makes us the happiest. So we
mm.
have access to love as a way of being in any circumstance, no matter what experience. We can be loving when we're tired. We can be cranky when we're tired, but we can also be loving when we're tired. That's up to us. We can be loving when we're angry. We can be argumentative when we're angry, but we can also be loving when we're angry. We could be loving when we're frustrated. Now, we could be impatient when we're frustrated, but we could also be loving when we're frustrated. When people discover that, then they've got their hands around their own joy because we're joyous when we're being loving. And that's what I want people to discover.
So love as a way of being as opposed to an experience. Where
Mhm.
does that leave us with these two questions? Do you love me? Or do am I am you? Do you love me or am I loving you? Are those even appropriate questions in a space where loving is a way of being?
Sure. Do you love me? It really, if I was really technical about it, I go, do you enjoy being loving with me?
Mm.
Are you fulfilled by being loving with me? Do you choose being loving with me? Do you choose me as somebody to be loving with? Those are really good questions, actually.
How do you unfold all of that in the book? And would you say that your book, Your Love Does Matter, is one of the ways you want to establish being loving as the preeminent way of being in the world? Or is there another purpose behind it?
Well, there's two really. One is for anybody who reads my book, I'm committed that it's not about love. This is not a book about love. I could write a book about, being effective. That doesn't have leave someone being effective. I could write a book about leadership and people could read it. It's about leaders, but it doesn't leave somebody being a leader. So I was committed to write a book that wasn't about love, but literally opened the door and created a pathway for people to read the book and actually walk, like put the book down and be loving in their life. So it made that kind of difference for people. So yes, that's how I wrote the book, was as that kind of pathway. The subtitle of the book is A Pathway to New Consciousness and Expanding Your Love Footprint. So, love footprint. You know how we talk about we have a carbon footprint, which is awesome. And I also would like to introduce to the world the whole notion that we have a love footprint as well, that we could pay attention to. In other words, I have a 15-second interaction with a clerk in a store, and then I walk away. What do I leave behind? Do I leave behind love? Do I leave behind indifference? Do I leave behind resentment? What do I leave behind? I have lunch with my brothers and sisters. Okay, what do I leave? When that lunch is over, what did I leave behind? Did I leave behind love or did I leave behind judgment? It's a good question, isn't it? What's our love footprint? So I'm committed to introduce, and I'm hoping that it becomes a grassroots movement, actually, to start a grassroots movement for people to be responsible in creating an extraordinary love footprint on the planet. And if I could, one more thing I'm doing with the book, you ready for this one?
Yeah.
So in about 2 weeks, I'm going to be sending a copy of my book to every member of Congress on the same day. And I'm committed to infuse our political system with love. And that's one step we're taking is to infuse our political system with love at the same time. So this book is going to all the way to Washington as well.
And that's right before the midterm. So I cannot wait to hear campaign speeches anchored in the book.
That would be something, wouldn't it?
You know what, David? I could take the entire morning and just be here with you. To be with you is just such a blessing
Mm.
and such, something that I'll cherish for the rest of my life. But you know what? I do want to share you with everyone who's here, especially Giovanni. Giovanni, would you come in, please, and grab a little piece of this juice?
Hi, Gio.
David,
Hello.
David, great to see you. What a real honor. What a real privilege. And when Maria Sangria said, have you considered the possibility of having David in the Daily Huddle? I thought that would be a dream. That's like, oh my God, is that even possible?
Mm,
It's like the dream of a dream, right?
mm.
So I just want you to know who you are for others. And speaking inside
By the
of this.
way, let's not miss though that both of you now, if you listen, anybody listening can't miss how fully and openly you express your love and the difference that makes. So both of you now have, I just want to mark the full expression of your love that you've gifted us with this morning and the expression of it and
you
how.
know Thank you, David. And I want to say it this way, David. And I have a relationship with you. You don't have a relationship with me, but I have a relationship with you, David. I mean, like in a different way. Like whether at the center or whether a friend of mine would say, "Oh, David is coming to lead an intro." I'm like moving my calendar around, canceling appointments. And I want to say it this way. Excuse me. I dance. I dance my life, my life dances inside of the clearing of love that you are.
Mm.
And I discovered a long time ago, whenever you were in a room, there was this way of being you showed up with every time. I think Soraya was pointing to it at the beginning, and I didn't have language to it. I didn't understand it. I was just, I'm just showing up in life, and but there is how you show up. There's this way of being. And as I was reading your book, and this is my bragging rights, I'm already reading his book. As I was reading your book, I was discovering that you're pointing to that way of being. There is a way of being that one can declare for oneself that allows me to deal with the bankruptcies of life, with the heartbrokenness of life, with the unfairness of life, because it will continue to show up for me and others. But there is a way of being that can hug that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering, David, if there was a moment for you. I'm just curious about this stuff. It might be irrelevant, but I'm curious about this stuff. If there was a moment for you when you discovered that, like, whoa, I can create my way of being, even though all this nonsense is happening around me, or the stuff that happened to me. Do you have a moment like that for you?
I think I do. A real turning point for me was way back in 1976. That's a long time ago, but way back then. And the event was this. It was uh, I was active in gay rights at that point, and I was giving my first outdoor gay rights speech. I'd done gay rights speeches indoors before, but it was the first one that was being held outdoors on the steps of the old state capitol in Hartford, Connecticut. And there were a couple thousand people out there. And I was about to walk up. Oh, one other detail. The night before, a friend of mine, my good friend, had been the victim of what was called a fag bashing. In other words, he was walking down the street, a Jeep pulled by, guys jumped out of the Jeep with baseball bats and beat him up. That happened the night before.
Mm.
So I'm about to walk up on the platform to give this talk, right, to a couple thousand people outside. As I'm walking up, a police officer stopped me and said, "You shouldn't go up there because we can't protect you." But I knew. Excuse me, it was a moment of choice right there, Gio. It's amazing what you brought up for me. It was a moment of choice right there to walk up. And oh, every bone in my body wanted to walk up there and be mad. And every ounce of me wanted to walk up there and rant and rave about the injustice of everything.
Yeah.
But I knew that if I did that, I was inviting people to hate.
Yeah.
And it was a real moment of truth for me.
Yeah.
And I had to walk up there and invite people to forgive and love instead. And I think it was in that moment it really became my way of life and my mission in life.
Mm.
Right there that day.
Wow, thank you for sharing that, David. So, can I have another question?
Yes, please.
Thank you, thank you. Um, David, wow. Well, thank you for creating that for yourself and giving it to us and giving it to me. I've been dancing in that context for a long time. And now I have a conflict internally for me, and since I have a chance to ask you. So I am someone who says, I am that I am, a man who likes to spit and likes to drink beer and likes to eat wings and curse. While at the same time, I am that I am a man. I'm getting that from your book, by the way.
Mhm.
I am that I am a man that that is loving,
Mhm.
that I can be loving, right? And so I have this I am love and I am loving, and I create that for myself and others.
Mhm.
Now the conflict I have, and I wanted to ask you, is currently the world is upside down. I'm sure the world has always been upside down, but this is the first time I feel upside down with the world.
Mhm.
And there's this book, you probably have read it or heard of it, Gems, something Steel. Sorrel, what's the name of that book? Where he talks about the guy talks about that the evolution of human beings have only happened by those who, gems, guns, and steel. The evolution of humanity had only happens by those who picked up the guns. The people that were like me, that were creating love, they got killed. And for the life of me, I'm like, no, 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 I can't. Even though there is the evolution of humanity has happened around those who have picked up the guns, we've got to find another way. But but in many ways, I feel that some of us, men that are like me, feel like, man, we're not winning that.
Mhm.
And we don't want the wrong people to pick up the guns. And how do you make sense of all of that? I hope, am I followable? Is this making sense?
Very much so. I would offer a slightly different view, which is that the people that have changed the world, changed circumstances, may have used guns. In other words, they invaded a country and took over the country, and now they're the rulers of the country. That's a change. But that's not an evolution. That's just a change in circumstance. An
Mm,
evolution of our humanity has not, I would assert, happened through guns. It hasn't.
mm,
you're talking about the real evolution of our humanity, the expansion of our humanity, the development of our humanity. That doesn't happen. You can, yes, can you change circumstances through guns? You can. But I
Mm,
don't think you evolve as humanity through guns. You
mm.
evolve as humanity by really developing oneself, capital S. And when one develops oneself, there's no escaping that's in the domain of loving.
Oh man, that's the answer. But not like I'm saying, David, you had a great answer. No, like I really get it for myself. I said this one thing, Sorrel. I know I'm hugging David, but last thing. Um, I really get that. Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi, and so many that I can name. They have been the pillars of the evolution of our mind,
Mhm.
not the guns that many of them have picked up to
Mhm.
make change.
Mhm.
And I really got that. And you have brought, for me, some peace of mind around who I want to create myself in the world. So I wanted
Great.
to say that, Sorrel. Thank you,
Uh,
David.
thank you, Gio.
Yeah,
Thank you.
can I just feed off that for just a minute, Gio Soros, which is that yeah, I think we need to bet it all on our love. Bet everything on our love. You know,
Mm,
if we even watch our individual relationships, let's suppose I'm having an argument with somebody or having some disagreement with somebody, what do I like try to rely on to like survive that? Well, I'll try to rely on being right. I'll try to rely on my logic. I'll try to rely on being convincing. I'll try and sometimes even rely on force. Okay.
mm, mm,
But I'm offering that none of that is really ultimately effective. I'm arguing and offering that what there is to rely on, always bet everything on, is our love. See,
mm,
I know that when you mentioned before you would see me be loving in a room. Yeah, well, why? Because that's the only way we can really work with people. I can't work with you if I'm keeping you at arm's length. I can't work with you if I'm resenting you. You won't work with me. If I'm
mm,
judging you, you're not going to be interested in working with me. But like a dance partner, I have to have you in my arms. If I have you in my arms, we can move together. So, no matter what conflict we're facing with another people or with a group of people or with a society, we've got to bet it on love that it's only in our love that we'll be able to have people in our arms and then work together and evolve together. So, bet everything on our love.
mm. Got
And
that. Got that. Sorrel, we can't hear you. I know you want to say. Go,
yeah,
go ahead, Sorrel.
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's in the space you're creating, David. I'm taken back to you walking up to the podium to give that speech where you chose to say loving things, encourage people to love and cherish each other. And I imagine as you're saying what you're saying now, I can hear the things you may have had to give up in that moment. But could you say a little bit about that? I mean, what did you have to give up after one of, to walk up there and be loving? What did you have to?
Mhm. I had to give up that I was right. I had to give up being righteous. See, when one of the things for us to get as human beings is that all of us have views of life, always. And nobody, no two people ever have the same view of life. So I had to give up that I was right about life and right about what should happen and right about what was good and what was bad. And instead, I had a view. And everybody else, including the people that attacked my friend, they had a view of life. And neither of us were right. So in that moment, then they weren't the enemy. They were just people who had a different view of life than I did. And then I could get interested in their view of life and why they had it and what it meant for them to have that view of life. I could actually get interested, and that's when then I could start making a difference with people. We have to be able to appreciate another person's view of life in order to really be connected with them and in communication with them. And if we think the way we see life is the right way, then we won't appreciate them. We'll think that if we're right, what are they? They're wrong. End of connection, end of relationship, end of being able to work together.
Thank you for that, David. Jill, welcome back. And Rose, Jamal, and everybody probably wants to have a question. So we'll open it up right after you, Jill.
Thank you, Sorrel. Thank you. Oh, this is so great. And I saw Sheila's hand up, by the way.
Yeah.
David, this might be a big question, but there is an after party after this. So, but I have to ask, hey, David, when Sorrel was saying, you know, you had to give up something, and you said, I had to give up being right and being righteous. And before that, you said, there is a space that when I leave, that I've got to create for myself, where there is just love. There can't be resentment. There can't be distance, or you're going to hurt me, I'm going to hurt you. There can't be what is in it for me here.
Or
It's got
judgment.
to be like, no judgment. It's kind of a pure space. That space that you're pointing to, David, what did you go through, or what does a person needs to go through to genuinely create that space? Because I'm, you know, I lead a lot. Sorrel and I lead a lot in a different context. Certainly leadership development, management, and communication, and inside of the world of transformation. And one of the things I struggle with is my internal dialogue about everything from the past, right? Who this person should be, shouldn't say that. They shouldn't have said that. Now they're, all of this judgment. What does one needs to go through, or what did you go through to every day create nothing, if you will, or love?
We have to, every person has to discover something for themselves. It's kind of worthless for me to tell you something if you don't see it for yourself, right? So every person has to discover something for themselves. And I think there's a couple key things that if humanity, if as a society, if we were able to discover, would make all the difference. For instance, here's one critical thing for us to discover. You and I were educated, and it's been for now generation after generation, and for centuries, humanity's been educated that everything in the world is right or wrong, and everything in the world is good or bad, and everything in the world should or shouldn't be a certain way. How do we get educated in that? We just listened to people around us as we were growing up. And if we listened to people talk, it didn't matter what they were talking about. They could have been talking about music on the radio. They could have been talking about what time your dad came home from work. They could have been talking about your handwriting. They could have been talking about the length of grass in the front yard. They could have been talking about the color of the lady's hair next door. They could have been talking about something the Pope said. But as we listen to people, even if they were talking about something as simple as the weather, or they were talking about something as big as a war, when they talked about it, they always referenced it as good or bad. They never just said weather. They said good weather or bad weather.
Yeah.
Everything they talked about, they referenced as right or wrong. Everything they talked about, they referenced as good or bad, as should or shouldn't be that way. So you and I learned, we actually got educated in that view of life, that everything is right or wrong, everything is good or bad, everything should or shouldn't be a certain way. We've got to discover for ourselves that that is simply not the case. Nothing, this is going to be radical for people to listen to, but it must get said, nothing in the world is right or wrong. Nothing is good or bad. Nothing. So let's just take a quick example. Let's take the weather. Let's suppose it's raining outside and somebody says, "Oh, the weather's bad today." Okay, the weather is bad. Well, let's examine that. Let's go outside and find the bad. We're not going to find it. We're going to find rain, but we're not going to find bad. Okay, so then where's the bad? And if we really, really look for it, like with a magnifying glass, go around the room and look for the bad, we're going to find it in one place and one place only. And that's in our speaking about the weather,
My judgment.
in our judgment about it. So the good and the bad, the right and the wrong, the should and the shouldn't, don't exist anywhere in the world, anywhere, except in what we say about the world. And so when you can own that, oh, wait a minute, what that person said is not right and what's right. Now, for us, we have to deal with, hey, I had to deal with, I've never been right. I've never been wrong. I've never been good. I've never been bad. I've done what I've done. I've said what I've said. And whether it's right or wrong, good or bad, is what we say about it, not it itself. So to discover for ourselves that right, wrong, good, and bad literally do not exist in the world. They exist in what we say about the world. That then lets us be the owner of our judgments and
And this
be
space
able
I
to.
created between you and me.
Mhm,
And
exactly.
that space I created between you and me.
There you go, Gio. Perfect.
Is it because then nothing you say or do can ever be right or wrong? Then I
Mhm,
get to say the space between you and I.
mhm.
And man, that's a love fest. If I say so.
Yes, yeah. No,
Thank you, David. Thank you.
I
That
can.
was so great. I have the breakthrough of my life.
Get 3 hands up and maybe more. Do you have the space and the time?
Me, of course.
Of course. Well,
Awesome.
we shall start with
Awesome.
Sheila, then Maria's on deck, and then Mark Bowling. Sheila,
Okay.
come on up.
All right. This is so awesome, David Cunningham. And I think you answered, or at least you're touching upon the question I was looking at. And it really was, what would you say thwarts that love, thwart that space of love prevails? What gets in the way that thwarts it? And I think in your speaking, you've been hitting on it, pointing to it.
Yeah, we can't even imagine that we can't even imagine that somebody isn't wrong. We can't even imagine that they're not bad. It hasn't even crossed our minds. Of course they are. So without that discovery that no, they're not wrong.
Hmm.
They can't be. It's impossible. It's impossible that they're wrong. It's impossible that they're right. Why?
Hmm.
Because there's actually no such thing as right and wrong. It's all a made up concept. It's all a made up paradigm. It's just impossible. So what thwarts us is we get trapped in those judgments and those opinions,
Hmm.
and we can't free ourselves. So one thing to do, by the way, a simple thing that is deceptively simple, I think, Sheila, is I've discovered the whole possibility of setting things aside. And what do I mean by that? Like right now, I have a coffee cup. I don't know if you, but I have a coffee cup on my desk, right? It's right in front of me. Now, where the coffee cup is right now, nothing else can happen, can it? The
Right.
only thing that can happen in that space is the coffee cup holding the coffee. That's the only thing that can happen right there. Okay. Now, if I want something else to happen in that space, I could try to fight the coffee cup. That doesn't work. I could try to argue with the coffee cup. That doesn't work. I could try to, conquer the coffee cup. That doesn't work. Oh, but I discovered there's a simple thing I can do. I can put it aside. I can just put
Mm.
it aside. And then in the space where the coffee cup was, what's there now? Nothing. So what's possible? Anything.
Hmm.
So with judgments and opinions, I don't have to talk myself out of them. I
Right.
don't have to like argue like that the opinion's wrong. If I have a judgment or opinion I'm stuck with, I literally can take it and put it aside. It's there. I don't I can pick it up later if I want to. I just put it aside. And in the space where that judgment was, in the space where that resentment was now, there's nothing. And I can create anything now with that person. So the
Wow.
simple action of putting things aside, I think, is a real like tangible tool that I think we have as human beings that is simple and yet profound at the same time.
Beautiful.
Profound.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you. You'll be hearing from me.
Hey, I hope so.
Me too. Me too.
Okay.
Maria, you are up.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear my voice?
Sure
Yes,
can.
loud and clear.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. So, David, I acknowledge you for being one of our world's greatest spiritual leaders.
Mm.
Truly a majestic force of nature. And when you speak, people's lives are forever altered. And I want to say thank you. And I'm going to bet everything on love. This has been such a fabulous, uplifting, empowering, all that and then some conversation.
Mm.
So thank you, and the universe thanks you for everything.
Thank you.
Awesome. Mark, come on up.
Morning. Dave, it's fantastic. I bought your book, look forward to reading it. And I may be able to find an answer to the question in the book, but I was really blessed to be able to spend 15 years of my career right out of college with a family of communications company of Atlanta. And I was always blown away by how great people were to have been a part of these companies. And I called the chairman of the company 3 years ago, and I said, "Why is it that people are so grateful?" And he thought for a second, and he said, "Mark, early in my career, somebody told me the two greatest needs that a person has to love and to be loved." And so he said, "In the 15 years you were with us, did you ever not feel loved?" And it kind of got me in this mindset that ended up leading me to the book. It's coming out, but it kind of forced me to wrestle with the concept of love. I kind of recognize how imperfect the English language is in expressing the concept of love. When you look at languages that have like eros or agape or phileo, they're different types of love. And I just wondered, kind of in your exploration of this, did you wrestle at all with like the different kinds, or you kind of embrace all kinds of love? Do you differentiate at all?
Yeah, it's a lot of different expressions of love. I might say it that way, expressions of love. And it's different. I think it's important also to differentiate between love and relationship. And because some people collapse that, so they get somehow tied up in the nature of the relationship, which suppresses their love. In other words, I can love you and actually fire you as an employee. Isn't that interesting? So people don't get that. They think, okay, well, if I'm going to fire you, I can't love you. That's not actually accurate. I can love you and actually divorce. So it's important to distinguish between loving and expressions of love and the nature of relationships. People get concerned about the nature of the relationship, and it's another thing that suppresses their love. I'm inviting people to have the freedom to love and then manage the relationship however they would manage the relationship without having to in any way, shape, or form suppress their love. And then let's just experiment with all different kinds of expression of love.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Rose, come on up.
Thank you, Sorrel. Hi, David.
Hi, Rose.
All right. So, in the Bible, the first children, right? Cain slew his brother Abel. And God remanded Abel to work the land, right? As a punishment for the wrong thing he did in killing his brother. what did we miss in the interpretation of that that helps me to understand fully what you're saying about no right, no wrong, just space of love?
Well, exactly that was God saying it. So that was a saying. God said that was wrong. So where the wrong existed was in God saying it. Then we can literally, we have a choice about, hey, yeah, I'm going to empower that. I get to listen. uh, the saying that there's no such thing as right and wrong in the world doesn't mean that you condone anything. So I spent many years of my life as a director of the National Committee for Prevention of Child Abuse. All right, I had to learn a big lesson then, Rose, okay? And the big lesson I had to learn, this is going to sound radical, I had to learn that child abuse was not wrong. Whoa. I had to learn that child abuse wasn't bad.
Mm.
Whoa. I had to
Oh,
learn that child abuse happened. And I had to say, I was going to say that I actually ended up using the word unacceptable versus wrong or bad. But I had to learn that, oh, that was my say, and I did have something to say. And I traveled this country to every state getting child abuse laws passed. So that I had a voice in saying child abuse must stop. But I had to learn that it wasn't bad. It was a stand I was taking. Why? Because if it was bad, then the people who did it were what? Were bad people.
oh.
And I lost them. In the minute I lived that way, in the minute that was the way that I related to it, I lost them. I was useless to them. I had nothing I could offer them. So I had to deal with myself and take my view of it. And I got very powerful in being able to speak about it without making the people and the situation wrong. It was, I got to say, I had a voice, and I ended up saying it's unacceptable, it must stop, which is different than it's wrong.
Okay, so
I know, right? Like,
Now,
okay, so
I said that, Rose, to make sure that people didn't think that if you don't say something's right or wrong, that you then condone it or have to just roll over and play dead and accept it. Okay?
yes. So what I'm hearing is God also said, don't eat from the tree of good and evil, which
Mm-hmm.
means don't judge, really, is
Mm-hmm.
what that
Mm-hmm.
says.
Mm-hmm.
So you can say, don't, I mean, there can be things, don't do that because it's not workable or it's not of love.
Oh, did you hear what you just said, though? I loved what you just said, okay? That it wasn't workable. It doesn't work. See, that's what I have guide my life. I don't have guide my life what's good or bad, right or wrong. I have guide my life what works and doesn't work.
I got it. I got it. Okay. So in
Yeah.
that sense, yeah, you don't have to say right or wrong to say don't do that. Right?
Listen,
Little kids don't go out in the street. Well, that's not about, okay, I got it.
telling Rose, let's face it, telling people that something's bad doesn't have them stop doing it. Telling people that it's wrong to do drugs, does that have people stop doing drugs? No. Telling people that it's wrong to even this one, even molest children. Telling people that it's bad to molest children, does that have them stop? It doesn't. So we have to deal with the bankruptcy of the whole notion anyway. It doesn't work. And then we have to deal with it. All it does is create distance between us and the people we're telling them they're wrong, they're bad. So I love what you said. How about instead of saying that things are wrong, let's talk about what works and doesn't work. Does it work for your life to do drugs? That's a whole different question. Does it work for your life, for anybody's life, for the world to molest children? Does it work? And when you can examine what works and doesn't work without the judgment in it, we can stay partners. We can really work things out together. Does that make sense, Rose?
Yes, yes.
So I love that you brought up the whole notion of workability. That's great.
That is phenomenal. Yeah. So much to create from there, David. We need to get your links for your next program, for your next 2 days, for the next 3 days. I know all of us are going to sign up for that and travel to Pennsylvania and everything. We're going to grab David, if you're okay with time, we're going to grab one more question from Mina, and then we can start wrapping up. How do you feel about that?
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Awesome.
Thank you, Dave. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
You're transforming my life in this very minute. And everyone, I thank everyone that have been in my life, Sorel, Giovanni, Sheila, everyone. And I thank you for this moment. But I wanted to ask you, are you going to translate this book into Spanish?
Yes, I don't have a timetable on that yet, but I can't wait to translate it into Spanish and a few other languages too. The next thing I'm doing is I'm making it an Audible book. So I'm recording it soon. I'm going to actually record it myself. So the next thing is Audible. And then after that, we'll move to different translations. Okay.
Yes, we need to continue transformation of our Spanish community.
Okay.
And I admire you. I admire the idea that you're sending this to Congress, because I have seen the transformation of Mexico in the last 8 years, 7 years. And it's all based on our previous president and the current president to act the way you're saying, the way you're communicating, being love.
How beautiful.
I think it's a really good experiment that is happening there to observe.
Yes.
Because we need to transform our community, the rest of Latin America. And I think your book, just based on what it's doing to me in this minute, I can see it happening everywhere.
Beautiful, Nina. We've got the book's going to Congress as part of a bigger project called that I'm calling Love Goes to the Capitol. So I've got a team of people that are beginning to design projects. They're going to start in the Pennsylvania's capital, Harrisburg, the General Assembly, but they're designing a project where every week go to the Capitol and just bring love to it. So like 1 week, we're going to take a group of formerly incarcerated individuals up to the Capitol, and they're just going to deliver an orchid to every legislator. The next week, take a group of trans teenagers up to the Capitol, and they just open the doors. Not 1 ounce of political talk, not 1 ounce of agenda, just open the doors with grace and with love for the legislators as they walk in and out the door. I'm committed that if we just went to the Capitol every week for a year with a different initiative like that, all we did is go to the Capitol and love people, that by the end of the year, it would alter the culture. I'm committed to that. So we've got a bigger project going called Love Goes to the Capitol.
Thank you, David.
Awesome, Nina. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you, David. Thank you so much. It's a radical idea. There's no right or wrong. There's nothing bad or good. Such a radical place to come from.
In the world. In the world. It's in our speech.
And yet, in the context of being responsible for what I'm saying, there are things that are unacceptable, and there are things that are not workable. And unacceptable and wrong are two different worlds.
They are, aren't they?
And I love it. Thank you, David. Now, David, I had a chance to now almost finish your book, and also, so we're putting in the chat. Right now, you'll find 2 different links: yourlovedoesmatter.com and also yourlovedoesmatter.com/gift. Is there anything you want to say about /gift? What are you giving to folks?
Yeah, in /gift, I've led. It's fairly new for me, but I've been recently leading a series of guided meditations. So, on Zoom, I've had a group of 30 to 40 people for half an hour, and just really created a guided meditation that I think that's there's our transformation, the conversations we have that really where we are committed to distinguish something, discover something, and create new possibilities in our speaking, in our teaching. I want to now also equally introduce, though, the value of spiritual experience, of an experience of divinity, of an experience of highest self. So I have started leading a series of guided meditations just for a half an hour that I wanted to make available to people. So that's if they go to yourlovedoesmatter.com/gift, they can, the recordings of some of those meditations are there that I thought people might enjoy listening to. Just, sit down for half an hour and listen to the recording of the meditation. And I think it'll be really enjoyable and really valuable. And it allows people to get present to the what's in their heart and the love that's in their heart.
That's beautiful, beautiful. So if you are here on Zoom, it's on the chat, and if you're on YouTube, you'll see it in the description. And what I want to say, David and Sorel, to have myself be complete, is that I heard you at the beginning of today's conversation that you were in retirement or a version of retirement,
Mhm.
and then a different bug came to you and bite you, and you're creating a new world for yourself and your family. And I want to thank you for doing that. Certainly, we're all here touched by this possibility you're creating of love, creating a space between each other without judgment. And I really got it for myself. And there's lots of way you can deal with retirement. And thank you for being an example for me of how I want my retirement to look like.
Great.
Consciousness matters. The evolution of the mind matters. And thank you for leading that way.
Wonderful. Gee, if I could, my mom is 98 years old, alive and kicking. Okay. And so I had to confront, and my own doctor, I went for a physical. My own doctor said, you need to be prepared. You're healthy. You're going to live a long time. Right. So I actually prepared. Okay. I got good genes here. So, all right, I'm 73 now, but okay, I got another 30 years. What's the next 30 years going to be about? And I really got committed that the next 30 years is the best, most express, most powerful 30 years of my life, and where I get to make, I know I've made a contribution to the planet so far,
No
but
kidding. No kidding.
but I'm committed that I ain't seen nothing yet, and that my biggest contribution is to come in the next 30 years. So you can thank my mother for keeping the horizon way out there. I got a big future.
I will. I will. And one last thing, David. There's many ways to translate a book, but if you give me the PDF, I'd love to translate the book into Spanish, and then just give it to you, send it to you, and I'll do it for fun.
Oh
So I would
my
love to.
gosh. Okay. All right. Hear that, Nina? It's coming. It's happening. Okay. All right. Can you get it done by this afternoon, Gio?
Probably like Sunday.
Okay. Good. All right. Good. All right. Wonderful.
Oh my God.
So I'll send you an email to remind you or not. I'll do it.
Oh, you don't have, please do, but you don't have to remind me. This is the best offer I've had in a long time. That's awesome.
Oh, I love it. I'm loving it.
Giovanni, thank you. David, thank you. I think the whole world is leaving with this. Let's just bet it all on love.
You two can be so proud of this podcast. The conversation, I've listened to a few of your friends, the conversations you have are so insightful, they're fun, they're entertaining, but they also are a real contribution. You can be so proud of this podcast, you two.
Thank you, David. Thank you.
Thank you.
And none of us want to leave. Even if we don't have to say anything, we just want to stay here and be with you. And that's the kind of space you create. So I cannot wait for you to tap on our shoulders and for us to tap on your shoulder, because this vision of love taking over the world is a vision that we've always shared, I think, and now we're just expressing it together. So thank you for making it alive, and thank you for taking your time this morning to create that with us.
Beautiful. Love you. Thank you. Everybody, how awesome to be with everybody today. Yeah. Wonderful.
So we have 8 tenets, David, that we end the show with, and I'll say them out loud. And the first one has always been love. Love. Love always. The second one is stress less. But I imagine if you're loving, you can stress less. Mostly plant-based. Sleep well, rest well, exercise, give everything you've got. And last but not least, check your assumptions. The one thing you think is wrong will get you, because guess what? No such thing as wrong exists. Let that go and create the space for love.
Great.
I look forward to being with you again, David.
Awesome.
This is it, folks. Until next time.